This is Mark down at Premier Stitching, and recently one of our most popular sewing machines is the Janome MC 9410 QCP. This machine is an amazing machine, and a lot of people have asked me, why should I buy a Janome 9410? So I thought I'd show you a little bit on the machine and show you why you need this sewing machine in your sewing room. So let me show you a couple of things. One of the first things is this machine is amazingly easy to thread. When you thread the machine up, this has what's called a horizontal spool pin, so we can slide our spool of thread on. It comes with multiple spool caps, so no matter what size of spool you're using, you have a spool cap that you can slide onto the end of it. All we do is grab our thread, and it literally is numbered. There's a number 1, a number 2, a number 3, a number 4, a number 5, a number 6, a number 7, and it's really easy to take off and use. So we're going to start up here with number 1, and yeah, my arm might get a little bit in the way, but I'll try to do better. We're going to go number 1. We're going to come around number 2. Now, one of the things that I always do is I always hold this thread when I'm threading any sewing machine. Reason why is this holds a thread steady to get into all of the thread guides, because truthfully, you can't really see them. So it puts a little tension on the thread as I pull through. So I've gone through number 1, number 2. I'm going to go under number 3, come straight up, go through number 4, come straight down number 5, catch number 6. There's a thread guide right above our needle here. And then we see number 7. We're going to pull our thread right in through number 7. We're going to come over here, and right here on the end's a little thread cutter. We just cut the thread off. That makes that simple. Now, threading the needle up. Without my glasses, I'm blind as a bat. So when I go to thread the needle, I really like something that threads easily. Well, this is open. There's a lot of LED lights under here that's lighting everything up. But something really cool on this machine, I drop the pressure foot. Right here on the end is a button. I push this button down and I let off, and that machine just threaded my needle for me. So it's very smooth, very easy to thread the needle up. The bobbin, this is a drop-in bobbin machine. The bobbin comes in and out easily, so I don't have to put the bobbin in underneath. I don't have to take off the slide plate. I don't have to reach up underneath things to get to it. It's very simple. This uses what's called a 15-class bobbin system. It's one of the most common systems out there today. So you can get these bobbins here at Premier Stitching, but you can also pick them up just about anywhere if you're in a need for them real quick. But grab your bobbin. It's going to wind up here on the top, and this has a quick wind bobbin system, and I might get into that just a little bit later, but I already have a bobbin that's got a little thread on it, so I'm just going to use it. The thread comes off the top to the left, and on here it shows you how to put your bobbin in. But all we do is drop our bobbin in. Once again, like I held my thread up here, I usually put my finger on the bobbin. This holds the bobbin in place and allows me to pull my thread into my bobbin tensions. So it has a little tab right down here. I'm going to pull the thread under it. And once again, my fingers are going to get a little bit in your way, but I'm going to try to do this the best as possible. I'm going to come around. Number 1, come over here. Number 2 just cuts it off. I just now put my bobbin in, threaded my bobbin up. I don't have to mess with anything else. It makes it really easy. Snap my plate back down. It just snaps right on. My thread, I'm going to slide through. Now, old machines, you used to have to pull the bobbin thread up. This machine, I don't even have to pull the bobbin thread up. It is ready to go. Now, kind of give a little idea about our machine. Here on the front is very intuitive. I have my push button reverse. I have my pattern tie off. I have my needle up down. Nice thing about this machine is this machine has your needle stopping up down. I can stop the machine needle in the up position, or I can stop it down in the material so I can pivot. And I'll show you that in just a second. I have an auto presser foot lifter, so I can lift my foot up and down with a push of a button. I also have a lifter on the back of the machine, so I can lift that with that. And a nice thing too is if you look at this foot, if I use my lifter in the back, I have an additional lift. I can push that foot up really high to where I can get bulky material underneath there without having it catch on things. So that makes it really nice. I also have a push button scissor, which if you don't have a machine with a thread cutter on it, you're going to love this right off the bat. Below this, I have a blue button that says start stop. I'm sewing a lot for the day and my foot's starting to get a little tired. I'm getting little cramps. I can unplug my foot control and I can use my start stop button to run my sewing machine. So I don't have to use the foot control. Very nice if I really want to concentrate hard up here and I have superior control over the machine. I also have then a speed control that sits beside this. So older machines, lots of times you step down the foot control, the machine took off at 90 miles an hour and it just ran. This, I can set the machine to where it just does a few stitches per minute, very slow and steady, or I can speed this up and make it go lightning fast. So it makes for a really nice setup. One other thing that's really nice on this machine that's over in this section too, this cover actually opens. Most machines, this is screwed shut. Well, what's nice on this is because it opens up, I can get in, I can brush out my fuzz, I can brush out my lint. Also, if I'm working on something that's really tight spaced, I can actually open this up and it allows me to even see down into this even better. So it opens up things to see better. So it makes for a nice setup. And then once again, I can close this up, get it out of the way. And I do have a thread cutter on the end of it to hold my thread if I'm threading up my machine. Over here on the screen, this is a touch panel system. What it does is it has, you just touch the stitch you want to make. It shows you on the side here what stitch you've selected. So right now I've got a straight stitch. If I come down and I select a zigzag stitch, it puts a zigzag on there. If I change the width of the stitch, it changes the width on the screen. So the screen, you'll see the stitch gets wider as I push the button out. Oh, I hit the other button and opened up the whole screen. I'm going to close him back down real quick because all I'm wanting to do is show you how we can make that stitch wider. If I lengthen the stitch out, you'll see how it lengthens out on there. So it gives me an idea of what that's going to look like as I'm selecting my stitches. But right now, I'm just going to go back up to my straight stitch. And what I'm going to do is show you, we threaded this up. We didn't put up bobbin thread or anything. And let's just sew a little piece of cotton material here real quick. Let's say if we were going to make a seam on something, we had two layers together. We're going to drop the foot down and we're going to step on our foot control. Now, this has a nice little foot control. We're going to step and we're going to take off and run. Now, if you listen to this machine run, very smooth, very quiet. I have it set for needle stop down, so the needle is stopping in the down position. Where I see that at is right here on my screen. It shows my needle in a down position. What's nice on this is if I need to pivot at a corner, I can come up and pivot on that needle without having to worry about the material moving and or slipping. Once again, I said a few seconds ago, I can control the speed. I'm going to set this down to the slowest of speed. Now, if you just notice what happened, I stepped on my foot control and the presser foot went down automatic. I don't have to lower the foot. It went down on its own. And right now, this is as fast as this machine will sew. If I increase the speed up, it goes a little faster. So what it does is it gives me complete and total control over the speed of the machine. I can come back and pivot one more time. I can drop the foot. I can pick the foot up. I can step on the control and it takes off and goes on its own. So very easy, very smooth, very simple machine to use. Now, I'm at the end of my seam and I'm ready to get my thread and cut it off. I can push the button on the front of the machine and this literally cuts the thread, lifts the presser foot, and I've got my thread cut off and my stitching is done. Makes it really simple, really easy machine to use. Okay, now we just done all of our straight stitching. I showed you exactly how the thread cutter works on it, how the foot goes down all by itself. So let's show you a couple of really unique features that this machine has, which makes this a very desirable sewing machine. One of the great things is this throat space. This machine is a large bed machine. It gives us over 11 inches of throat space from the needle to the inside arm of the machine. If you're a quilter, or if you're a sewer and you need that space to be able to move things around, this gives you a large area to work with. Also, this machine is what's called a free arm sewing machine. This piece comes off and this leaves you a nice open free arm system. What this is nice for is if I'm getting in and sewing around sleeves or cuffs, things where I'm going around things in a circular motion, I need to get in and mend or things, it gives me a nice opening. Plus, this arm is a long throat arm, so it gives us a lot of space to work with. Some of your machines are very short, so you only get a little short space to work with. That's another reason why this is a very desirable sewing machine. Also, I'm going to slide my bed extension back on. What's also neat is this bed extension opens up and it will store presser feet in the top, bobbins. It also stores more stuff down in the bottom down here. And then even back here on the back side, this pops open to have more storage so you can have stuff right here with your machine. There's also a little bit of storage space up here in the top that you could set a few of your choice presser feet in and have them right at your fingertips. So it makes it a neat system all the way around. Very, very, very user friendly. So we're going to go through and show a couple of different things. So changing the presser feet. Presser feet are very easy to change on this machine. Once again, because this has a big throat space, a lot of people buy these to quilt with. So what I'm going to do is this machine comes with a 1/4 inch presser foot. This 1/4 inch allows me to make a 1/4 inch seam when I'm doing my quilting. I'm going to push a button on the back of the presser foot. It's a little black button back here, and that foot just falls off. I can take my other foot. I'm going to slide it up under that presser foot. I'm going to kind of line the bar up. I want to make sure I keep my thread out of the way. And yeah, my fingers are getting away because I got great big hands. But I'm going to load that in there. I'm going to push this down, and my foot is snapped on, and now I'm ready to take off and sew again. So we're going to grab, since we were sewing a little of that cotton right there, let's just go in and say we're going to do a 1/4 inch seam. We're going to put a couple of pieces together here, and we're going to slide it up underneath there. This 1/4 inch foot has a guide bar on the side of it. So when I set this up here, I can come off of that guide, and that keeps me exactly 1/4 inch from the edge. Well, I want to start 1/4 inch from the needle itself. So if I look on my needle plate here, there are actual markings on this machine. One of them is there's a bar back here that sits behind the needle. This is actually 1/4 inch from the edge of the material or from the needle. There's also angles if I'm doing 60-degree angles or 45-degree angles or 30-degree angles. So if I'm doing baby blocks and stuff, I have all of these measurements right here on the machine, which makes it very simple and easy to use. So I'm going to slide my material in. I'm going to slide it back to the 1/4 inch from the edge, and I'm going to drop my foot down. Now I'm in place, but my needle is in the center of the needle plate. That's more than 1/4 inch. So a really neat feature on this machine is it has what's called a sewing instructor. Once again, this is a reason why these machines are very popular. Up here on the top of the machine, which I don't know if you can see this very well in the video, but it shows me all of my different stitches. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I am going to select my sewing instructor. I'm going to tell it I want to do quilting, and I'm going to do patchwork piecing. All of a sudden, that needle, if you notice, shifted right over to the right, and it is now exactly 1/4 inch from the edge of the material, guided by that bar. So if I keep my two pieces of material together, I'm going to sew down, and no, I didn't measure these off, make sure they were the same length. And I am sorry, I am not a quilter, so don't ask me to do perfect stitching. But we're going to show in this go along. And this, I'm going to take my hands off just to show you how easy it feeds the material. I'm not having to hold this. I'm not having to push it or anything through. Now, if both of these pieces of material were the same length, there's another guide bar right here on the front, which shows me exactly 1/4 inch from the edge. So I can stop right there, and I started 1/4 inch from the back of the material, 1/4 inch from the front, and 1/4 inch from the side. I'm going to go a couple more stitches down just because I know I'm a little bit on the shorter side. Says I may be almost out of bobbin thread, but I'm going to show you something really neat. And I'm going to ask the camera girl if she'll zoom in real tight on this screen. Now, I just sewed this 1/4 inch. Now, let's say I'm making quilt blocks, and I need to make this same exact length stitch over and over and over again. This machine remembers how far I sewed. And on the screen over here, it'll ask me, when I get to the end of this, it says, hey, do you want to sew the same size, or do you want to do a different size? If I'm doing these blocks and I'm doing 4-inch blocks or 2-inch blocks, and I need for this thing to be the same length on every block, all I have to do is push okie dokie. And now I'm going to cut my thread. And I'm not going to be 100% perfect, but I'm going to try to do it. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to line my needle up right on top of the other stitch, and then I'm going to move just a smidge to the side. I'm going to drop my foot down, and I'm going to tell the machine, let's sew this same thing again. And if I take off and sew, and I'm trying to kind of sew over a little bit so you can see the two lines beside each other. When I get down to the end, I'm still sewing. My foot is still pressed down on the foot control. The machine automatically stops on its own. I'm going to push my thread cutter button again, and that foot's going to come up. Now, if we look, I started about 1.5 stitches before the other one, and I ended about 1.5 stitches down there at the other end. If I could have lined up both of them, it automatically sews the exact same length every time. So it's really neat. And it comes up again on the screen and it says, hey, restart for the same size, or do you want to do something different now? So the machine really tries to make things easy for you when you're sewing with it. It's a fantastic feature on any sewing machine, and Janome is one of the only companies that ever has that. Now, I'm going to say a different size, and I'm going to kick that one out. This machine also has a lot of different straight stitches. So one of the things that we like to do with straight stitch, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to drop my pressure foot down again. Same little 1/4 inch thing. I'm going to select what they call a lock-o-matic stitch. Now, what the lock-o-matic stitch does is when I start to sew with this one, the machine is going to go forward automatically, then it's going to go backwards for me. It automatically back stitched. When I get to the end of where I want to stop, all I do is push my reverse button. It's going to go back 4 stitches, come forward 4 stitches, and stop automatically on its own. Cut my thread, pressure foot comes up, and this automatically back stitches for me. One of the nicest features because I don't have to worry about back stitching. Now, sometimes when we sew a material and it's a very lightweight material, the machine may sit down and say, hey, you know, I'm going to pucker that edge up. You've seen it. Everybody, when you've backstitched and it kind of wrinkles that thread sometimes because the material is so lightweight, it can't support the stitch. So Janome has a stitch, and it's called a lock-in place stitch. And what it does, if you watch this needle as we're going through this, what it's going to do is the machine is going to start to sew. It's going to put a stitch in the exact spot. It puts 4 stitches in one spot. We sew however long we want it to go. We push our reverse button. The machine is going to stay in the same spot, tie it off, and it's done. What's nice on this stitch is, once again, because it doesn't back up, it literally ties in one spot. You don't have the extra bulk of that stitch, but it keeps that stitch from coming out. Great if you're sewing some kind of lightweight materials. Now, give you a couple other little things that are kind of neat on this machine that are great. This is just in some of the straight stitch. This machine has hundreds of stitches on it. We have decorative stitches. It sews 9 millimeters wide, which are great when we're doing decorative edges on our borders, where we're coming around something, we're stitching it in. We want to do a nice serpentine. It's not a little bitty stitch. It's nice and wide. So I'm going to push my button, drop that foot off. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to grab my little open-toed applique foot. Once again, I'm going to set it right up underneath here. We're going to drop our holder down on there. Oops. Got to get him lined up straight. We're right on there. And now, if I sit down and I say I want to do an applique, I want to do some zigzagging, we're going to sit down and let's see here. Let's just do, we'll just do a little piece of applique. We're going to just sew a piece of material to another piece. So we're going to set this down here at the edge. We're going to drop our foot down. Now, say if I was wanting to make sure I start in the right spot, I could push my instant needle down, puts me where I want to be. I can come over and select my zigzag. Now, once again, if the young lady videoing this would zoom in on the screen, I want to show you something else that's really cool. There's not anybody, there's people that may have this. I don't remember seeing this on hardly any machines. They have 2 different zigzags. One is called the M zigzag. One says R on it. A lot of people are, what does the M, what does the R stand for? M is a middle justified zigzag. So literally what it does is when it starts to zigzag, it widens from the center outward. But let's say that I was trying to zigzag down the edge and I don't want it to get wider on both sides. I have an R, which is a right side justified. That means that it zigzags over to one side only. That allows me to not have to worry about going wider off the edge of the material if I'm doing a zigzag and or a satin stitch. I'm going to do a satin stitch down the edge here. So I'm actually going to bring my needle back up. I'm going to select my right justified zigzag. I'm going to drop my needle back down. I am right off the edge of the material. I'm going to come into my stitch length and I'm going to shorten myself down to a fairly short stitch to make a satin stitch. So if we sit down now and we take off and sew, this machine's going to feed this material through. Now, once again, I'm just going to let the machine do the feeding on it. I might guide it just a smidge, but to show you how smooth and how good the feed system is. This machine has what's called a 7-point feed dog system. What it does is it has a very, very nice aggressive point system on the feed dogs to grab the material and pull it through. Now, this could take me forever to get through here, so I'm going to speed my machine up. I told you this thing will get up and fly when you want to take off and go. I do have control with my foot control, but let's just say if I wanted to lock this down more in of a medium speed, right now I've got it set about halfway. This is as fast as the machine will go. So we'll satin stitch along. I'm going to stop. I'm going to hit my thread cut. Now, show you something else that's really cool on this machine. Now, this is an option. It does not come with the machine, but it is a neat thing. This is a thread cutter foot control. So let's say if I'm working and I need to keep both hands on my material, I can buy this little attachment. It plugs into the end of the sewing machine. It has its own little port. If I push this button, it automatically cuts the thread, lifts the presser foot for me. I don't even have to come up and touch anything. This can do it. I can literally control everything with my feet if I need to. If you look at this, give you a nice idea about it. Look at how smooth that satin stitch is on this machine. And that was feeding by itself, not me doing anything. Really a nice setup all the way around. Now, let's come back over. I'm going to kind of flip him back over, and I'm going to come over to the other side over here. This has a lot of different applique stitches that you can use. So let's say one of the most popular stitches is a blanket stitch. This machine has, oh, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. It has 11 different blanket stitches. So I can find a blanket stitch for my appliques that really match up well to what I want to do. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually do stitch number 4 on our machine. So I'm just going to turn my screen over and I'm going to go over to the applique setting and I'm going to select stitch number 4. Once again, this is actually a right justified stitch. So if I widen this out, it's going to widen out onto the material instead of widening off the material and on the material both. So we're going to set down again, and I've got myself kind of set at a medium speed, and I am going to start to sew. I need to probably wind a bobbin here in a couple of minutes. And as we go along, this is stitching down the edge of the material and then tying up on here. Now, neat thing about Janome also is they have got so many different presser feet that you can buy for their machines that allow you to do so many things. They have feet that are made for special for appliques. They have feet that are made to do hem stitching. They have feet for ruffling, feet for gathering. If you need a presser foot, a specialty foot, Janome's got it. So you're not limited to what you can do with your machine. Now, I'm going to push my tie-off button. What this tie-off button does is it finishes the stitch that I'm making and then the machine stops. Instead of me stopping halfway in something, this allows it to stop right where I want it. I'm going to hit my thread cutter button over here. If this was on the floor, it's cut that thread off, and look at that beautiful blanket stitch we just made. Fantastic for your quilts when you're doing appliques on your quilts. Nice, simple, easy machine to use. All right, I ran out of bobbin thread, folks, so I popped my bobbin out real quick, and we're going to show you how to wind a bobbin because this has one of the neatest bobbin winding features that you're ever going to have on a sewing machine. So we're going to take our spool of thread. Now, I've unthreaded my machine, pull the thread out because it's so easy to thread. I don't really have to worry about it. But if I didn't want to unthread the machine, I can put in an auxiliary spool pin and I can wind my bobbin off of the auxiliary spool pin. But right now, I'm just going to thread up. So when we go to wind the bobbin, we're going to kind of do the same thing we did before. We're going to go into number 1. We're going to come around to number 2. But instead of coming down the front, we're going to go to the back of the machine. So we're going to come back under our piece back here, and we're going to come over to our bobbin here on the top. Now, old days, we had to take our bobbin thread, we had to put it up through the middle of the bobbin, we had to let it start to wind, come back, snip our thread off, and take off and go. A nice feature on this machine, this has what's called a bobbin. It's a simple wind bobbin. We come up and we wrap around our bobbin 3 or 4 times, and then down here on the base of the bobbin, there's a little piece down here. And what we're going to do is we're going to take that thread and we're going to come down here and we're going to catch it on it and literally cut the thread off. I'm trying to do this so y'all can see, but I may get my fingers in the way. But it's a little hook. We just come down into that hook, and it's got a thread cutter in there. We pull our thread back, cut it off, push our bobbin winder over, and now the machine is engaged to wind the bobbin. I'm going to do something this way. I'm going to unplug my foot control, and I'm going to use my start-stop button. I start-stop, my bobbin winder starts to run. Now, winding my bobbin, really neat because I can use my speed control to wind fast or slow. Why is that a benefit? Because a lot of machines, it's all done by the foot control and you have to sit there and hold it. If I'm winding a finer thread, an 80 weight thread or a 90 weight thread, that thread winds very, very tight on your bobbins. And when you run that at full speed, it literally squeezes that bobbin onto the bobbin winder, and it's almost impossible to get it off. When you do get it off, it has literally swelled the bobbin, and that bobbin won't work in your machine very well. So what's nice is being able to actually slow that down when you're winding that type of thread. Now this thread is a Mettler thread. It's a 50 weight thread. So it's really easy. If I wanted to wind real fast, I could wind real fast. These bobbins hold approximately 75 to 80 yards of 50 weight thread. So it gives you a lot of thread to sew without having to worry about running out. When the bobbin gets full, I'm going to speed it up a little bit so we can just finish up. When the bobbin gets full, it's actually going to stop itself from spinning and tell you, hey, you need to take me off, put me in the machine, and start sewing again. And if you'll notice now, the bobbin's kind of kicking, it is stopped. So I'm going to push my stop button. I'm going to pop my thread off. Now, here's where a lot of people, you have to get your scissors, you have to cut it off. Janome thought about that. They literally put a thread cutter right here on top of the machine to cut our thread off. Makes it easy to do. Easy to do. Now, I'm going to plug my foot control back in because I do use my foot control 90% of the time. I'm going to drop my bobbin in, put my finger on it, like I said before, pull my thread around, come up under 1, 2, cut it off. Once again, the slide plate has 3 little tabs. I'm going to stick it in the tabs, push it down. I'll hear it latch, and it's latched on and held in place. Threading the machine up. I'm going to go through this really quick. I'm not even going to explain to show you how simple and easy to thread this machine. It goes through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, thread guide here, 7, cut the thread off, punch the needle threader down, and the needle is threaded and we're ready to go. Very simple, very easy. Nice. I love it. It just makes it great. I mean, I can literally thread the machine up without having to look. I'm going to slide my thread back up under it. Now, give you a couple other little quick things that make this machine great, because I could go on for hours showing you different things that this machine has that makes it really neat. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to kick that pressure foot off. I'm going to put our regular pressure foot back on here, and I'm going to drop my foot back down, snap it on so I can do regular sewing again, just to give you a couple ideas of some different things. One of the things with sewing machines is you need a sewing machine that'll sew anything you want to sew. This is a 14 weight denim. It's very heavy, very stiff. It's a hard to sew stuff. I've got 3 pieces of this denim. I'm going to put it together. I'm going to roll this up once. That's 6. I'm going to roll it up twice. That's 9. Let's even go all the way over. That's going to be like 12 layers of denim. Yeah, we're going to do it anyway. Once again, say this is thick. I'm going to drop that foot and I'm going to use my regular pressure foot lifter. Notice how high. Look how easy I can get that underneath my foot. I'm going to drop that down. I'm going to go back over to a regular straight stitch. I'm going to slow. I'm staying around medium speed on my machine. Now, I've got a size 14 red tip needle in here. If I was really going to sew this, I'd want to use a size 16 or 18 denim needle. I'm going to put my needle down to start, but I'm just going to kind of take off here and sew. Notice how easy it goes through. It doesn't strain, it doesn't complain, it just does it. Now, if you look on this machine, there is one thing that you don't see up here that you see on a lot of other machines. Older machines had it out here on the front. Other machines had a little turn dial up here on the top. This machine has an auto tension system. What makes that really nice is I can sew 12 layers of that. This is a little piece of chiffon. I'm going to fold it over double because that's usually what you're sewing is 2 layers together. I'm going to just set this up underneath the foot. I'm not going to lift anything. I'm not going to change anything. I'm just going to go straight off that heavy denim right down across this stuff. And if you watch that, you see that. That is sewing out just smooth as glass. How easy it feeds the material through. Once again, all I'm doing is just keeping it sewing. Fantastic. The tension is beautiful. One of the nicest things in the world, so I don't have to mess with. That saves us so much time, makes it so much easier. We're going to get to the end. I'm going to punch my little foot thread cutter over here. Foot comes up, and you can see. We sewed through all of that material, didn't skip any stitches at all, sewed right off onto this, and it's just as smooth as glass all the way through. Very, very nice sewing system. Now, a couple other things real quick, and then we're going to call it a day, and then we may come back and show you some more stuff later on. But just to give you another thing that we can do, I'm going to change this foot out. Now, this machine has an option to it. Doesn't come with it, but it is really nice that you'll be able to add this if you decide you want to. A lot of times you're going to sew quilted material where it's got some batting in the middle of it, and you know what happens. You're sewing across there, the top looks beautiful, the bottom is all wrinkled up and wadded up. This machine has a built-in walking foot system. And what you do is if you buy this from Premier Stitching, you're going to get this foot with it in our Premier package. It does not come from Janome with it. It is an option. But from us, we're giving this to you. I'm going to take this foot. Now, my hands are pretty good size. So when I go to take the presser feet off, I open this door up because it allows me to get my fingers all the way in here real easy. I'm going to take the presser foot screw loose. I'm going to take this foot off, and I'm going to attach what's called our AccuFeed Flex Foot. What the AccuFeed Flex Foot does is it actually has a set of feed dogs in the foot that actually walk the material through like a commercial machine. Now, you can get a machine that has a walking foot, but what you run into with a regular walking foot is it actually moves by the material itself. What the AccuFeed Flex Foot does is it's actually driven by the machine. So I'm going to attach this foot. I'm going to slide my thread under, and back here on the back, there's a little silver tab. And I'm going to push this thing, and I'm going to engage it into the machine itself. You can see how the feed dogs move down level. This now becomes a commercial walking foot machine because that's the way that commercial machines work. So I'm going to shut my door back up. This is a piece of felt. Lots of times when you sew 2 layers of felt or velvet together, they slip on each other. I'm going to take and put 2 pieces of this together, but to really show you how this works so you can see the stitching, because this is yellow and that's yellow, I'm going to take 2 of those blue pieces. I'm going to put one on the top, one on the bottom, if I can get them apart. There we go. All right. 1 piece on the top. Now it's on the bottom. 1 piece over here. What this does is this simulates sewing through quilted batting. I'm going to come in. Once again, because this is thicker, I'm going to use my extra presser foot lift. I'm going to slide that up. I'm going to set that down, and we're going to take off and sew. Now, when I sew this, I have to tell the machine I'm using this foot. On the machine, you'll see there's 3 little arrows and a little line. This is my feed dogs on the top to feed through. So I'm going to turn this on, and I'm going to engage it. And it tells me on the screen, hey, make sure you got the right presser foot on here, because it's going to want to drive that. When I select that, all of a sudden, if you'll notice on my screen, all I have the capability to do is select straight stitches, because that's what this is made for, is a straight stitch to walk that material through. Now, I'm going to step down on my foot control, and if you watch, I'm going to go nice and slow here. You can see the feed dogs are actually moving. They're going up and down and grabbing this material. That's the same motion that the feed dogs on the bottom feeding the material from the bottom are doing. So as we feed this material through, this is pulling the top material at the same speed as the bottom material. A lot of people think that there's something wrong when the bottom is all wrinkled up and the top looks smooth. The reason that happens is the bottom is actually feeding at the correct speed. The top is literally slipping across the material. That's the reason the top looks good and the bottom looks bad. We're going to run this to the end. I'm going to push my thread cutter. It's going to lift the foot up. I'm going to pull this out. You can see how pretty the top looks, how smooth. Turn around and look at how pretty the back looks. Just as smooth. Looks fantastic. And I mean, you just can't beat it. You can't beat it. It doesn't allow the material to slide, slip. You can see this was 2 layers. This is fuzzy pushed together. So this stuff could have slipped all over the place, but it grips it, slides it through very well. Another nice thing with that is if I ever want to sew, let's say upholstery material or something that's heavy, or if I sew vinyl, I don't have any vinyl or leather. Sometimes that's really sticky and slick. It doesn't feed well. Because of that walking foot, I can set that down. I can drop that foot down. I can set down, and I'm going to actually do what's called a reinforced straight stitch. We're going to sew this across here. The machine is literally going to feed the material forward and backwards as it sews. So what it's going to do is it's going to reinforce. This is a great stitch if you're sewing something stretchy because it actually puts 3 stitches side by side and they kind of pull apart when it's stretched. But if you're ever sewing something heavy and you want it to have a little bit more strength in that seam, this machine gives you that strength with that stitch. I push my tie off button so it's tying it off, hit my scissor cut, lift the foot up, and now oops, I didn't pull him up there. As we see, this stitching is a whole lot heavier and it gives us a really solid seam when we open this up on the other side. Very firm, very hard. You can't pull it apart. I'd probably rip the material long before I pulled the thread out. So it makes for a great system all the way around. This machine has a whole lot more, very intuitive with things that it can do. There's lots of decorative stitching. I'm going to show you a couple of those stitches. So let me get on here and I'll change this foot back out to the regular foot. We'll run a couple of decorative stitches and we're going to call this done for the day. Now, once again, once I take this foot off, I take him off. I'm going to put the other foot back on. My screw can unscrew all the way. I'm going to put him in a little bit just so he's easier to put the next foot on here. There we go. Slide this foot in from behind. Tighten him down on there. Set my door back shut. Now, I'm going to put on one of those decorative applique feet again because these feet are actually cut open in the back so it allows that decorative stitch to flow through easily. I'm going to push my foot, take my regular foot off, put my applique foot back on, line him up, drop the foot down on it. We're going to come in and select on our screen. Now, what you'll see is I still only have straight stitches on my screen because I still have my machine still thinks I have that dual feed system on the machine. So what I got to do before I ever do that is leave myself in the straight stitch, shut off the dual feed system. It tells me, hey, make sure you got the proper foot on there. Now all of a sudden I have my whole selection of stitches again. So I'm going to come down, I'm going to grab just a decorative stitch just to give you an idea of some of the pretty stitches that this machine will do. Let's sit down and I'll just sew across this green material that I had up here earlier. Now, once again, I'm going to unplug my foot control. I'm going to use my start stop button. This machine, this stitch is set at 9 millimeters wide. So it's going to drop that foot and it's going to start to sew and it's going to make this stitch big and wide and beautiful. So if I'm doing this on a border, if I'm doing this on a lapel of a shirt, if I do this on a skirt, it really pronounces and shows off because of how big this stitch really is. So we're going to let this run for just a second so you can get a really good glimpse of it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit my tie off button. Now what's neat on this is when I hit that tie off button, it's going to finish out the design instead of just stopping in the middle. So I hit my tie off button. You'll notice it starts to blink. It finishes the stitch and ties itself off. I can pivot this over. So if I sat down and said, hey, I want to do another stitch, I want to go down here another direction and stuff, I can drop my foot back down. I can come over here and select another stitch. I can take off and continue to sew. So we're going to just run another decorative stitch across here so you can kind of give an idea of what we're doing, and you can see what we have here. And because of the way this works, I'm going to start this, push this button. If this is going to finish out that arrow stitch, tie itself off and stop all on its own. Then I hit my thread cut button. My foot's going to come up. Look how beautiful those decorative stitches are. Now, a lot of people are going to look and they're going to say, hey, you moved over. Why did the machine do that? The machine did that because I had this material under here folded. I got up here, and when it got to the edge, it stepped down and started sewing off of the edge. So it literally moved the stitching over because of the edge. The machine didn't do it. That was my fault. So I apologize and sorry about that. But how beautiful these stitches look as we go along. Now, this is Janome's 9410. This is a fabulous machine. We'll come back and maybe do some more videos later, but I hope this is giving you a few ideas of why you really need to have this machine. If you have questions, you're not sure what's going on, hey, jump on our website, chat with us. We're there 9 to 6, Monday through Friday, or you can give us a call at 800-229-8889. We're always happy to answer your questions. We're real people. We got real answers. We're right here in the heart of Texas. Happy to help all of you. Y'all have a great one. Talk to you soon.